Hey, and welcome back to the podcast. Today we are sitting down and we are continuing the theme for December, which this is week 2 of 3 for December because as I said last month, we skip 2 episodes a year, and that is Thanksgiving week and Christmas week. And so Christmas falls on a Thursday this year, so we will definitely not be doing a podcast. But we don't anyways. So with that being said, we have this week, we have next week, and then we will be done for the month of December. And then we will have an episode on New Year's Day that will be coming out. And so we're excited about that one, but we will get into that later. Today, we are continuing the idea of Jesus at the center. We oftentimes mention our conversations before we actually start recording. And I don't know, like, it seems like very, very much our conversations before this episode about all the Christmas parties and all of the things that we're having to plan and all the places we have to be and all the things that people are asking us to do just really ties straight into our theme for the day, which is the distractions of Christmas. And so with that, man, David, why don't you, you could literally just repeat what you just told me, but you don't have to choose this one. But why don't we just start with just this mindset of maybe a stressful thing that happens over the holiday season, like a particular one that you're just like, holy cow, that was crazy.
Yeah.
Short story.
I like that you added short story. He knows me so well, y'all. It's just been, obviously we're getting ready with all the Christmas parties and Christmas program that's going on. And, we've got a lot of uber talented people in our church. And with that brings a lot of moving pieces and parts. And so, like our our kids Christmas program is coinciding a bit with our adult choir, and they're mixing a lot of stuff. There's a lot of instrumentals going on, so it's kind of like you have a contemporary worship band, you have traditional choir, you've got a kids choir, and several singers, and everything is kind of weaving together. And so with that, you're moving the board order, and let me bring it down to layman's terms here. So you have your soundboard order. So you're unplugging and plugging back in, and things are getting turned up and down and crossed and feedback and all kinds of just mass chaos. And so with all of that can bring a whole lot of stress, because it's like, we're doing all of this. We still have church on Sunday, guys. Like, I have to know that everything else is still going to run smoothly. Like, they're unplugging the camera and the live streams. I'm like, what is happening, y'all? So anyway, it was, I'd share all of that just because it's like, with big production type stuff like this comes sometimes stressful challenges when you're still having to keep the main thing, so to speak. It's like we have all these special things, and it's exciting and it's fun, but we also have to remember that in the midst of all of that, we still have our standard Sunday morning worship and our Wednesday night stuff and all this other stuff, and we want to make sure that we're being kind to one another's ministries. And there was no, intention of malice or anything else like that, but it's just we can get so caught up in the busyness of what we're doing that we lose. I don't know exactly what the right term here, because the first thing that popped in my head was we lose the plot, and I don't think that's the right term here. But it's easy. Yeah,
I get it, though.
It's easy to lose the main thing, and so I think the same thing in our ministry. We can get so caught up in stuff and go, oh man, I have like no time to actually run my stuff, and it could get really stressful, and then we end up turning into the Grinch because we start to get frustrated and upset and nervous and all the things. And so, yeah, distractions are a real thing during this season.
Yeah, no, very, very much. And I definitely, I think kind of listening to this, hopefully you're like, oh yeah, like I totally get it, kind of thing like that. And my question just kind of to the listeners, and something we'll kind of address today, is what distracts us most from Jesus at Christmas? for me, it's definitely, and I feel it more this year than most. Of like, it's all the things I have to do. Um, it's all the places that I'm supposed to be at, all the repairs that still need to be done on my remodel at my house. It's all the things that other people are asking of me, kind of thing like that. And so it's just this mindset of like, where am I spending time when I should be focusing and making sure time is spent on other things that are important too, like just remembering that the season of Advent is about this hope and anticipation of the coming of Jesus. We talked about that last week and how, like, you know, the hope of the world isn't supposed to be shrouded by busyness. The hope of the world isn't supposed to be shrouded by Christmas parties and everything else. But I think one of the most culturalized things in the world has become Christmas. Um, and in all reality, it's not something that has been helping. In a lot of ways, it's been hurting.
Hmm.
Um,
Something.
because,
Sorry.
oh no, you're good. Go.
Um, I was just gonna say, like, I don't know if this necessarily fits, but it's what's on my head and my heart right now is, I think part of the reason why we get so okay, so distractions are going to happen no matter what. It doesn't matter what season it is. It doesn't matter, there are always going to be something to distract us. I mean, the number one distraction is right here. We know this. We talk about this. There's whole seminars and programs about it, but we all know, like, our phones, our devices are such a huge distraction. But, I think about one of the biggest, I guess, hurdles for me personally is me. It's like distractions are going to happen. How are you going to react to it? And for me, I tend to, I don't start off frustrated. Usually I just handle it. And then later it builds into frustration. Um, I guess I'm more of a think first, get
I
mad
get that.
later kind of person. But then
I
that
get that.
frustration builds and it becomes this whole thing. And what it comes down to, and it's something that my pastor says a lot that I think is really, really important is who are you when you are squeezed? What is the thing that comes out of you when you're squeezed? And oftentimes, especially during the holidays, the person that I am when I'm squeezed is a little ball of rage. And that's
You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch.
exactly that, man. And it's like, we shouldn't be that way. Like, I want to be a joyful, servant hearted person. I think at the core of me, that's what I am. But when things start
Yeah.
to get chaotic and noisy, my little introverted, creative self just feels suppressed. And when that feels suppressed, my father comes out of me. My dad
Yeah.
is like, my dad was like your typical big machinery car mechanic. Everything is the worst until it's fixed. He will cuss the whole time, and then once it's fixed, he will then pat himself on the back and be like, "I'm the greatest mechanic ever." But the whole time it's this,
Yeah.
and like he goes nuts. And I was raised that way, and so I've realized that in those times, I'm very much like my dad in that sense that when things are happening, like there is a point when the frustration like dials up, and I can't turn it off until I express it out,
Yeah.
but I don't want to because
Mm-hmm.
in a church setting, that's not the right thing to do. And I'm not saying I'm
Yeah.
cussing or anything, but like I'm in those moments, I just want to tell people off, but that's not my nature. I want to be the guy
Yeah.
who's the peacemaker and graceful and kind. And so internally, I have that moment where I'm sort of like sitting on my hands, rocking, going, like I want to get over this as fast as I can.
Yeah.
But and one of the things like, and Brent had actually shared this with me several weeks ago, and I guess I never thought about it, but it has really stuck with me. Is there are a lot of situations where I might be the guy who has the answer, and I sit on my hands and allow somebody else, because I want somebody else to get that recognition, glory, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And what I do is I cause myself a lot of frustration because I already know how to fix it. Instead of just like
Yeah.
I'm wasting time letting everybody else spin their wheels when I could just step in. And so
Sure.
ultimately what it comes down to is like, who are you when you are squeezed? And I feel like this time of season is where we are squeezed the most. And oftentimes the stuff that comes out is anything but Jesus.
Orange juice or lime juice?
Ooh.
Um,
See, but I like both. So.
yeah. So, but I mean that yeah, the whole idea of squeeze is a huge analogy to kind of go for. And I think the other half of it, and like this is definitely more geared towards the Christian circles, is this I this might be way off, and it's totally fine if it is, because this is what I'm thinking right now. We've kind of turned Christmas into this holy war.
Ooh.
Like this like, you know, like the crusades that they thought was this like wonderful thing that they were doing for God, that turned out to be this horrific tragedy of like, yeah, like, but it's like, for Jesus. It's like, no, that's really like, are we doing the right
So are we
thing?
basically crusading in ugly sweaters now?
Crusading with ugly sweaters, protesting Starbucks cups, basically.
In Starbucks,
um
just in general.
yeah, and Starbucks just in general. uh land busyness and materialism and social pressures, all those things that we like. I feel like those are the things that like we are almost priding ourselves in. um and it used to be one of those things of like, you know, avoid the culture of busyness and materialism and social pressures and like all this stuff. And it's now we've like kind of taken those on as this mantra of like, we're doing this for Jesus. Like, and it's like, didn't we say like 10 years ago not to do all three of those things? And it was like to strip away everything so like we could get to Jesus. And now like we've taken them on like this badge of honor. Because I don't know if you've seen if you're listening to this, I don't know if you've been on Instagram or Facebook and seen the wild productions that churches do for Christmas now to bring people in, where they have people floating from the ceiling and flying across, like Santa's going across. I saw one yesterday, a Santa in a sleigh like flying out of the church. And it was like, what are we doing? I think the most beneficial thing that we could ever do for a Christmas service would be to strip everything away and make it as minimal as possible so we can stop worrying about the fluff and move on. But
maybe we have gotten to a point where we're now old, Brent, but like, what is wrong with just telling the Christmas story and being grateful that Jesus left perfection to come into our mess and live amongst us and teach us? When was that not enough for us? Why do we have to convert? You know, we can stay on this soapbox, but I mean, I think you're 100% right.
I feel like we have become a culture, even a Christian culture, that is more excited about the potential rewards of Christian service or the potential gifts that we might receive or the potential of maybe winning that new family with this huge Christmas production that doesn't happen all 51 other times they come to church a year. Like, I don't know. I'm kind of drawn to Luke 10:38 through 42, when it's like, you know, the thing is like, Mary, Martha, like that's what I think about when it comes to Christmas, is just this mindset of like, and it says, while they were traveling, he entered a village and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home, Jesus. She had a sister named Mary who also sat at the Lord's feet and was listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by her many tasks, and she came up. Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her to give me a hand. And then Jesus answers and says, Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things, but only one thing is necessary. Mary has made the right choice. and it will not be taken away from her. Like, chills, dude. As far as like busyness and like distractions of all the things and the parties and the services, and I mean, even like, I'm gonna be honest, even like with worship, like worship is this high end expectation. If you, we've mentioned this multiple times, but if you're listening and don't know, me and David both lead worship, as well as our youth pastors, and so just even the high expectations of like, hey, like, we're in the Advent season, so now you have to play 3 Christmas songs a week. It's like, why can't we just sing about Jesus?
Well,
Don't get me wrong. I love Christmas songs, but I'd sing Christmas songs all year. Like, it's not. I don't feel like there's a magical season for those. I feel like we should be using those as worship music that we'd use for worship music all year round. Just like, tangent. I've never understood how we can sing about Easter all year long, but we can only sing about Christmas for a month.
that's fair. That's fair.
I'm just saying, like, every song is about resurrection, is about all these things, dying on the cross, like, huge parts, pivotal part of our salvation, our understanding of faith, core pillar and concept foundation of Christianity. Understandable. But why can't we talk about the hope and desire for Jesus to return just as much as we talk about him dying? And I don't know. So, tangent, side note.
Well,
Sorry.
so
Not
get
focused.
us somewhat back. I somewhat. Um, I think you guys who have been listening for a while know this has become my favorite book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. I have read and reread this. I want to make this clear. I have ADHD and I have dyslexia. I don't read. I don't. But I can't put this thing down. And it's been so outside of the Bible, this has probably been the most revolutionary book I've ever read. Because when you talk about the hurry sickness, I might be one of the pictures in the definition, or the dictionary. Okay, so it says, this is part of his chapter called The Problem. If you haven't read this, please go read this book. If you can't afford it, tell me and I'll buy it for you. Literally, email me. I will buy it for you. I'm glad to. I have 5 copies in my office right now that I give away. So it says this. We are more busy than bad, more distracted than non-spiritual, and more interested in the movie theater, the sports stadium, and the shopping mall, and the fantasy life. Fantasy life. Come on, Christmas. It's fantasy life. They produce in us than we are in church. Pathological busyness, distraction, and restlessness are major blocks today within our spiritual lives. We hear the refrain, I'm great, just busy. So often we assume pathological busyness is okay. After all, everybody else is busy too. But what if busyness isn't healthy? What if it's an airborne contagion wreaking havoc on our collective soul? John Ortberg, and then he goes on to quote John Ortberg when he says, for many of us, the great danger is not that we will renounce our faith, it is that we will become so distracted and rushed and preoccupied that we will settle for a mediocre version of it. We will just skim our lives instead of actually living them.
Yeah. So, which leads to our second half of the conversation. How can we expect students to do what we don't model? How do we expect our kids, if you were a parent, to do if we don't model? If we don't focus and prioritize that centering time, if we don't focus and prioritize and intentionally make moments to where we can just be still, who's telling our kids to do different?
So let's practice this. We have a natural lull, which doesn't happen a lot in our podcast. If you're listening, if you're watching, whatever, I just want you to just do something for me, okay? I know it sounds fluffy, but it's important. Close your eyes for just a moment.
Unless you're
Unless
driving.
you're driving, and keep those dang eyes open. Don't kill yourself. Don't kill anybody else. But if you are sat down in your office drinking your coffee, close your eyes for a moment and just take a deep breath in and take a deep breath out. Do that several times until you feel the stress that you are carrying sort of melt out of your body. And once you get calm, and I don't mean like a forced calm, I mean if it takes you 30 minutes to get calmed down enough, and I don't mean you're flustered and frustrated, because sometimes we're more stressed out than we realize. And it's that moment you take a deep breath. This is going to sound weird, but like one of those moments like when you've had to use the restroom for a long time and you finally go and you just go, like that instant relief that comes with it. I know it's a crude example, but it's just what I thought of. Probably because I need to pee really bad right now. But the truth is, like, that relief that comes over you, it's the same thing when you take a deep breath in and out. It allows you to calm down, to recenter. And I think it's in that moment that then you go to Jesus and you begin to pray, or you open up your word, or you listen to some calming music, or whatever it takes. Because I think sometimes, and going back to the to what Comer and ultimately Ortberg, who he was quoting there, oftentimes the reason why we are so distracted in life is because we don't even realize it. It's like we know that there's distractions, but we're so used to the busyness, we're so used to the distractions that we don't even know how to get out of it. And I like that he calls it a hurry sickness, because it's like we are so plagued by this thing that we don't even know how to slow down. And so, like, as fluffy and weird as it, and new age, hippie, whatever you want to call it, taking time to slow down, take a deep breath, get quiet, might take a little bit of like reprogramming our brains to allow God to actually talk. You see, I think a lot of times, like, yes, I know that there are periods when God is quiet, and a lot of times it has something to do with our own mistakes. But I think that the Holy Spirit is talking a whole lot more than we realize. And we are so distracted and so busy and so rushed that we can't hear him say even the simplest things because we don't shut up long enough to hear him talk. So it's like, what do we have to do? And I think we really do need to slow down and take a deep breath.
Yeah. No, and it's something that our pastor says all the time is don't just breathe. Say Jesus in your breath. Jesus. 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 I use that all the time.
In that name.
I use it when I can't. I use it when I can't sleep. I use it when I am just in my car and it's been a long day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is just that mindset of like going back to the idea of breath. Yahweh. Yahweh. Super, super important. And so when we look at this, though, when we work to practice this, it is really, really easy to do this one time and be like, oh, that felt so great. Oh, busy. So if you were like me, or probably David, or probably most of the other people in the world, if you want something to stick, for me, it has to be a calendared option where I stick it in my calendar and I say, hey, every day at this time, regardless of what I'm doing, I'm going to stop and do it. Every morning when I'm drinking my coffee. Every evening before I go to bed. Probably at least once a day when I'm in my car. Just that moment of
maybe that's why you're so calm, because you drink coffee all day.
That's the secret, David. No, but with that being said, like, if we aren't helping students simplify, if we aren't helping our kids simplify, who's teaching that?
Yeah.
Nobody. And so we need to cut down on activities that don't matter eternally. We need to focus on family. We need to focus on group traditions that are based on Christ-centered practices. Advent is a big one. Do it. Do it with your kids. But I'm not going to even go that far. Like, one of the traditions that we do that has the gospel in it every single year is one of the most commonly held Christmas traditions of all time, which is watch Charlie Brown Christmas. Because Linus gets up on stage and reads the gospel. And so every single time in the 30 minutes of that show, you hear the Gospel of Luke. Every time, even in that mindset where it's like, hey, like, and I don't know, like Charles Schultz was a genius because he picked this up 70, 80 years ago and was like, hey, maybe it's not about this stuff. Maybe it's about the small things that we need to start focusing on. Maybe it's about the thing that we need to start focusing on. Because his whole, like, the whole story of that whole deal is like, is this what Christmas is all about? No. It's about that story that's found in the gospel that we need to be prioritizing and focusing on. So, focus on group traditions that are Christ-centered. Focus on family practices. Focus on family time. Matthew 6:33. Seek first his kingdom and righteousness. If that's not a priority, which I'm going to be honest, there's definitely days that I look back and I'm like, man, I don't know where I was, but I wasn't seeking him.
Yeah. That's good.
Maybe that becomes a priority too.
Well, and kind of.
If it is a priority, how do you continue to make that more of a priority?
Yeah, and I think, going back to your point on making your family a priority, I can't remember if we talked about this in the podcast or if this was a just me and you conversation. So I apologize if this is repeated. But Brent had shared last week or the week before about something they do as a family, and anytime they have a holiday break, every person in the family chooses 2 things to do as a family. I thought that was super cool. I wrote it down, and when I went and picked up my wife and son, I said, hey, we've got a Christmas break coming up, and something that Brent and Lisa do is this 2 things. And they both got really excited. They were like, oh, that sounds cool. And so Noah's like, well, I already know what I want to do. And I was like, well, what's that? He was like, we're going to play hockey together as a family, and we're going to watch a movie. And he's like, no, we should go play putt-putt. No, we should go to the arcade. And I was like, if only there was a place that had all of those. Oh, yeah, we're going to main event.
Yeah. Magical
place. But,
no.
And he was like,
and
yeah,
that's
let's go.
And that's the thing is like, you also, and like the cool thing about that is like when you hit a break or something to that nature, you oftentimes can see into the heart of the person that is telling what they want to do because it's what they miss the most.
Exactly. And
so
anyway, we've been thinking through and like planning, and Kelsey's trying to decide what she wants to do. It's been kind of fun thinking about that. And I was like, well, if we're all going to do 2 things, I was like, what's it going to look like? Where do we want to do that? And I was like, do we have to do that here in Sweetwater? I was like, no, where do you want to go? And he was like, what if we went to Lubbock? Or what if we went to Abilene? And so he's like asking all these questions like, could we do that? Yeah, why not? If that's what you pick. And so it's been kind of a fun little challenge and a little bit of dreaming, I guess. I think sometimes you can get, again, so distracted and so busy that we forget to dream as a family and do fun things because we just kind of stay in our rut.
Well, and I'm just going to tangent that as our close for this episode. What are 2 things that you want to do this week that you haven't made time for?
Come on, bro.
And I'm serious. Like, what are 2 things this week that you have not made time for because you haven't given yourself time for?
And can I add to that? Like, what if we made it like, it can be anything in general, but let's add a third and say, what is one spiritual discipline, practice, whatever, that you need to do that you haven't been prioritized? Let the two other things, they can be fun or whatever, but one spiritual discipline too. Or it could be a one and one.
No. Very much. And me and David are both, I mean, and this is just speaking to the couples or the married couples. Me and David are both very, very adamant believers and loud professors of the fact of, if you have a family, that is your greatest ministry. The rest of what you do should be an outpouring of where you've already spent time with your family. I mean, think about it. Even Jesus' family on earth, Jesus' family was the disciples. He did everything with them. Family doesn't have to always be blood. Family doesn't always have to be like this perfect nuclear family. Like, you have the people that you call family. Spend time with them. Your time with them should be a overflow that flows into all the other aspects of who you are. And I find a lot that if I don't make time for family, that's when I get grumpy and bitter and don't have the energy or the passion that I have for youth ministry. Those are the times that I feel it the most, is when I'm really away from my family. So, and then maybe, I mean, you're looking at all these things that you need to do this week, that you want to do this week. Maybe find a distraction that you can replace it with. Hey, instead of, I don't know, mindlessly shopping on Amazon for 15 hours, trying to find that perfect Christmas gift that's never going to happen because there's no such thing as a perfect Christmas gift. Maybe you pick at that distraction and let it go.
You need to hear this, because it's like, you know, I started to laugh and make a joke about it, but honestly, there might be some truth to that. Maybe the perfect Christmas gift is the one that you choose. Maybe it doesn't have to be that complicated. It's the fact that you thought about it and you cared enough to get a gift. And whatever it is, it's good enough.
Yeah.
And stop worrying about making it this, like, we have this weird competitive one-up culture that probably just needs to die. Like, just do the thing.
Oh, guarantee you. Like, and it's one of those things of like, I am very, very focused on the fact of, what does the person want? What can I give that they don't have? Do it from there. It doesn't have to cost a ton of money. It's a real small short story at the end. I chaplain at one of the school districts in our town. I'm involved in a Secret Santa for one of the schools. And so I have this idea, or have my Secret Santa, the person that I'm shopping for, and I'm required to spend $40 over 3 gifts.
Okay.
Which is totally fun. I mean, you're supposed to do 3 days of gifts, and on the last day, you reveal that you're the Secret Santa for the person, kind of thing like that. So they say that they like these restaurants, and then they say that they like Batman, and I think it said like Batman and Wonder Woman figurines. And I was like, well, I have this Batman hand puppet from the 1960s.
Oh, nice.
That I really don't use. It's actually sitting in a box right now.
There you go.
And I'm like, I didn't spend any. Actually, I picked it up at a garage sale like literally 5 years ago. It's been sitting in my house. I probably spent $5 on it. But sometimes, like you said, it's just about what they want and what you have. It's not about finding the perfect gift. It's about finding what they need more than what they like the perfect gift, if that makes sense. Sure. So, but with that being said, this is probably gonna close out this episode. Distractions, they literally are the crux of this season. If you're like me and like lists, you might even spend some time writing down all the things that are distracting you from the things you want to do, and then focus on those 2 or 3 things that you want to do as well. because it's super, super important. But until next week, that is all the time we have for this show. We would love for you to share our podcast with your youth pastor friends, or just share it in general. There's youth pastor Facebook groups, there's websites, there's all kinds of things. And the more that you share, the more people hear our podcast. And our goal is to encourage, inspire, and equip you to be a better youth pastor for the church that you're serving in. Because at the end of the day, that's all we care about. That's all we want to do. We want you to know that you're not alone. We want you to know that no man is an island, and that you are in this with people. You have a community. You just have to look out and reach for it. And if you don't have a community yet, we'd love to help be that community or find you that community. And so reach out, podcast@studentministryconversations.org, or Brent or David at studentministryconversations.org. Or you can reach out to us on social media, on Instagram or Facebook at Talk Student Men. We're not cool enough for Twitter or X or whatever it is now, and TikTok and all the other things. We just,
Ain't got time for that.
do what you do best. Yeah, do what you do best, and those are pointless. We don't like those. So with that being said, super, super glad you could listen with us this morning, hopefully, or whenever you're listening to it. And we just hope that this gives you that opportunity to maybe take a step back and think about the distractions in your life as we're leading into this holiday, and where we can cut what we don't have to have. So until next time, we hope you have a great week, and we will see you for next week's episode.